Alright, hear me out. This is So Says Mr. Thunder. I'm Mr. Thunder, and today is Tuesday, February the 20th, 2024. Is this your first time coming to the podcast? Man, I appreciate you. However you got here, definitely, glad you're here. For those of you who are, returning and continuing on this adventure of a podcast that I have, definitely appreciate your support. And it ain't about me; it's about you. Anyways, man, I gotta apologize for missing a week. It's been pretty crazy for me. Just this time in my life, got a lot going on. Not going on, nothing bad, just things that are taking me away from my normal everyday. Um, we celebrated our fourth year wedding anniversary, so that was an adventure in Vegas. As we go to whatever Super Bowl city there is, because we got married on the Super Bowl, so we celebrate that. So I was gone in Vegas, hanging out with some friends that became family. So that was pretty cool. But definitely had a good time in Vegas. But you know anything about Vegas, it it definitely takes a lot of energy out of you. So needless to say, without partaking in any of the particulars, I didn't really get much rest. But definitely was worth the trip. And then we followed that right back up by this past weekend going to visit the grandbaby. So that was cool. Not making any excuses, just telling you the reason that if you've been keeping up, why I missed an episode. But I come to you with good reports. Good reports. I've had time to kind of just focus on myself for a while, so that's been good. But in doing so, I've been able to listen to more good reports. So, it's funny how, you in seeking counsel, you get these good reports, and it limits the mess that you have going on in your life. You kind of start, I guess, what do you want to call it, isolating conversations based upon the productivity and, not wasting your time anymore. Which also, makes your circle a little bit smaller. Your social aspect becomes a little bit more inclusive. So, um, today I want to talk about the good report of being in still waters. What I mean by that, there's a saying or the saying goes that still waters run deep. And seeking counsel for me has been the vessel that gets me to the still waters. And in those still waters is when I can kind of focus on myself. So as I said, these past couple of weeks I kind of been focusing on myself. And getting the good reports going into these couple weekends, these past 2 weekends, from other people, have definitely given me a sense of purpose when it comes to this podcast and what it's doing. So it allowed me to kind of just take a break and step away and focus on myself. But I think about still waters, right? Now, I'll be the first one to tell you that I do not like being on the water. I do not like being on water when I can't see land. I've always been that way. Not that I'm afraid of the water or I'm afraid of, drown or anything like that, but I just don't believe in being in some water that's so deep that you don't know what's in there, especially if it's something in there bigger than you. But that's personal. But anyways, I say that to say that, in order to get to the still waters, right, you have to have a vessel to get you there. Now that vessel is all dependent on your resources and what you put into, the trip. Because to get on still waters, you gotta have a purpose, right? I know when my stepdad used to take me and my brothers fishing. He would take us out to this lake. I think it was called Freeze Lake in Wisconsin. But anyways, he'd drive us out there. We would rent a boat from a little bar, and you know what I'm saying, we would get on the boat. He would always have his own, which I always thought was interesting, but he had his own boat motor. So it hooked the boat motor up to this little boat, and he would take us out. At first, he would kind of navigate around the shores or the banks or whatever you want to call it of this lake, and that water was always, wasn't too deep. You could kind of, see what was at the bottom, although it was a lot of seaweed and dirt. But you could tell that there was a bottom there, and it wasn't a very uh, smooth experience. The boat rocked, while I was trying to get where I needed to go. The motor chopped up the water pretty good, and things like that. But as we got out a little bit deeper, a little bit further into the lake, you got, the land moved away, became very distant, and the water just would get, became very, very, very still, and the motor would calm down to kind of just more of a purr, to the point where eventually we could cut the motor off and we'd be sitting in the middle of the lake on some very, very still water. The water was so still that, if you looked over the edge of the boat, you could kind of see your reflection. And on a good sunny day, man, the light that would come off the top of the water would be so intense that you could barely keep your eyes open. And then we'll go and commence the fishing. Then I remember going on a cruise, getting out to, I think we was only going to Cozumel out of Galveston, but getting out there, the water was kind of choppy, and everything, and you could see all the waves and things like that. But then when we got out in the middle of the ocean, the water was just still. It was like sitting on what I'm saying, just a sheet of glass, and it was really still. So it was crazy when you think about how deep that water is, right? So when I think about being on still waters, which we all have those moments where we we set out on a journey, and we're trying to find some clarity, or we need some self-reflection. Those conversations that we have of seeking counsel and getting good report, or giving good report, eventually gets us to a point where we can process all that information, where we can sit down and just kind of just be one with yourself. And we're at that point where I talk about being being in the middle of the ocean, or being in the middle of the lake, where the water's so clear that if you were to kind of look outside of your vessel, you could see your reflection. But realizing you had to go through some choppy water and some rough banks to get there, but you've developed and collected all this knowledge along the way, that now you're sitting on top of something so deep that it's got you, to a point where you're still, and you're looking, and you're reflecting on your situation, and you're just kind of relaxed so much that all the the thoughts that you have are yours and yours alone. right? And you can, I guess, how would you say, process it to a point where now you're able to make another decision, right? And the decision is do you want to be obedient, or do you want to be disobedient in what you just reflected on? Because there's the purpose of going out there, right? Now, if I go out there to fish and I don't use the right bait or the right hook or the right, you know, fishing pole, I'm not going to yield any results behind that. It'll just be the experience. But if I use the right tools while I'm in that moment of being on still water, then the fish will start, the fish starts biting, or the fishes, start taking to the bait or whatever. But you bringing something back. You're bringing something back. And the whole point is to recognize that when you're on still waters, realize that you're on still waters for a reason. And you got to use the resources that you had, at your disposal when it's just you. When it's just you, what resources are you using to go fishing? Do you read? Do you watch? Do you talk? What do you do when you're on still waters? And what do you throw out there? And what are you trying to catch? Has there been a time where you found yourself on still waters and you didn't know why you were there? Why all the hustle and bustle and the movement kind of all of a sudden just stopped? Everything came to a standstill. Maybe you were somebody who talks to God every day, and this particular day or this particular moment, God's not talking to you. It's just you and your thoughts sitting on a boat on still water. That's so deep because you got yourself to a point where now all you can do is look overboard and realize that you see your own reflection. Now, what are you going to throw out there? What are you trying to catch? I want to hear. I want to hear. I want to hear about it. Hopefully, and I do pray that you get something out of this. So I do appreciate you for spending a little time with me, but definitely I want to hear what you got to say. So if you got 10 minutes where we can sit down and have a conversation, I'd love to hear about it. Still waters. How did you get there? Why are you there? What do you see? And what are you fishing for? This has been So Says Mr. Thunder. I'm Mr. Thunder. I'm a Native American of this country, and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it. As I said, I appreciate you for spending just a little bit of time with me as I kind of go over my thoughts and the things that I like to talk about when it comes to yielding positive results from seeking counsel behind people who provide a positive outlook and outcome for when it comes time to go fishing while you're sitting on still waters. You can find me on Instagram, So Says Mr. Thunder. I can be found on all podcast platforms. This one specifically is Spreaker, but more commonly, you can find me on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and there's a few other ones. Again, I apologize for missing the week. I speak about consistency, so there's no excuse there. However, I was out in the middle of my ocean, sitting on still waters, reflecting, so that I can go fishing and come back and do something different when it comes time to this new season. Because now the seasons are changing. The grass is coming. Well, not my grass. My grass is weed, but the grass is growing now. We can turn the sprinklers back on, and now it's going to go from cold to warm to hot really, really fast. So I'm prepared for this new season. to bring back the fish that I found or caught while I was on still waters. Holla at me next time. Peace.